Welcome to Peacebuilding Initiatives, where we explore the transformative power of dialogue, cross-cultural understanding, and the collective empathy in building more peaceful and connected communities. I'm your host, José Barzola. Thank you for joining us. In today's episode, we're diving into the 39th Annual Peer Mediation Conference, which is centered on this year's theme of Elevate Every Voice. For nearly 4 decades, this conference has brought together youth peer mediators ranging from ages 8 to 18-year-olds from across Hawaii. It serves a powerful space for connection, skills building, and inspiration, while also supporting schools and communities seeking to develop or strengthen their own peer mediation programs. We are honored to be joined by an incredible group of educators and practitioners who played key roles in this year's conference. Shelly Andrews, a high-risk counselor at Kailua High School, brings over 20 years of experience facilitating psychoeducational groups focused on peer mediation, social-emotional learning, and family engagement. She holds multiple degrees from the University of Hawaiʻi at Manoa, including a graduate certificate in conflict resolution. Shiloh Francis, an accomplished educator with over 2 decades in Hawaii public schools, is a national board certified teacher and the 2024 Gilbert Lerman Hawaii History Teacher of the Year. She will share insights on how students were able to elevate their voices, what goes on behind the scenes in planning the conference, and what she is most proud of. Betty Skiles, a dedicated science educator and mindfulness practitioner, has spent over 20 years helping students build skills beyond the classroom. Her work in social emotional learning and in peer mentorship at the University Laboratory School reflects her deep commitment to developing young peacemakers. With Tino Manu, goes by Tino, a social worker at Farrington High School and a former peer mediator herself from Farrington, brings a powerful perspective shaped by lived experience. She will reflect on the conference as a whole, including the impact of bringing together middle and high school students. Maya Terhune, a middle school language arts teacher and peer education advisor at Hawaii Technology Academy, whose work centers on connection, collaboration, and elevating students' voice. She will help us explore how we can better understand the challenges facing youth today, create more intentional spaces for dialogue, and thinking ahead to the future of this work as we approach the conference's 40th year. In this conversation, we'll be debriefing the 39th Annual Peer Mediation Conference, Elevate Every Voice, exploring what made it meaningful, what we've learned, and where we go from here. Thank you all so much for being here. It's truly a pleasure to have you on the show. So thank you all. To get us started, just a general question to whoever wants to take it on or everyone as a whole. Could you each briefly share just maybe one word or phrase that captured your experience this year during the conference?
I would say inspiring for me.
Let's say new connections for me.
I'd say fun.
My word is amplified.
My word is creating connections. Two words.
Thank you. I know we closed out the conference with one words. So I was just trying to see if maybe some, I know it's been a couple of weeks, so wondering if anything had possibly changed. Now, Shiloh, what were students able to truly, how were students able to truly elevate their voices during the conference? Could you share a moment that stood out to you?
Literally the entire year, my peer education program class knew that they'd be helping host our annual conference. And from, reaching out to the location we had it at the Filipino Community Center, going there on a tour and like understanding how the space will work and setting it up. We also put out a contest for the first time for students to submit their logo designs for our conference and also the theme of it, which that in itself was elevating every voice. And that's what the conference theme ended up being. So that was, we kind of tried to get students involved in this initial planning instead of just the adults behind the scenes and the educators behind the scenes. How do we get more students? We also looked at feedback from last year's conference. We had done a post survey and we looked at that to see what are things that they really wanted in the conference. And then we brought that to all of our students in our different schools and had them figure out what is it that they want to lead. So each section of the conference, different schools led, and that became the students, really showcasing their own voice. And it was all, the MCs were students. So from the very start to the very end, it was truly student-led.
Thank you. And just one of the big things I heard is once more, you just said this, it was student led. And so I wonder for folks listening, especially educators or adults working with youth, how do you think, how did adults in the space support or possibly have to step back from that process where you might be normally used to just leading because you're in front of the classroom?
I love the second part of that question. How do you step back as an educator and let them actually do some of these hard things that, I mean, it's planning a big event we had 100 people this year. That was bigger than the last few years of this conference. And that's a lot for students to figure out. So it's kind of stepping back, but also saying, here's some supports, here's resources. This is what we did last year. Let's not forget like what we learned and what students that previously did this went through, and using that as kind of a guide for this year. Of course, we had kind of some behind the scenes meetings to make sure and see how many students are coming, and field trip forms, and, you know, getting all the times down for the actual just agenda of the conference. But again, it was really developed by students this year. So super happy to see that.
Thank you. And did anything surprise you about how students showed up?
Honestly, like we ended up inviting more students from our middle and high school. Last year, we kind of just kept it our peer education program students. And this year, we invited more students and just put it out there, and they showed up. We had almost 45 students from HTA middle and high school come and participate in this conference this year. And that is just showing that they were really interested in what is this? They were curious, and the invite made them feel welcome. The students designed the invite also, you know, so again, it was like, what's going to attract students to come? And they wrote the email that was sent to families. So that is really important and key. I know Maya had some thoughts about just inviting students, and what does that what does that mean for them?
Yeah, just to pick up on that, I was really intentional throughout the event. You know, it felt kind of like a wedding where everything is building up to that moment and you just go through it in a blur. So I tried to step back a little bit and just listen to what they were saying. And the question that I asked a lot was, why are you here? You know, what brought you here? Why did you, when all the world was invited, you guys are the ones that showed up? And it kind of goes back to what Shiloh said. A lot of them said, I have a friend that invited me, or I saw this and I was invited. So it just echoes that idea. If educators create these spaces that are co-designed with the students to meet what they want, they're going to show up. They're ready to do this work. They want to do the work. So we just have to keep inviting.
Yes, yes, I love that. I think part of it's also, speaks to the concept of like creating a space of belonging and building community, uh, and what that truly involves. It's a collaborative process. It's not, and letting go of this power sometimes that we have as the educator in the room, because in acknowledging there's a lot that we can also learn from them, and we are always learning. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Tino, from your perspective as both a peer mediator and now a social worker, how did students show up differently at this conference compared to what you've seen in school settings?
Great question. I think kind of like what Charlotte was saying, I think a lot of this time it was student led. You know, I think in the school setting, yeah, still is, but to an extent, because I think we're dealing with, other students and their real life problems and their real life issues, us as adults kind of also have to be at the forefront and be a bit more involved with that. But like what Shiloh said, and I was just even thinking when I went to conferences as a mediator, when I was in high school, granted back then definitely was at a bigger scale in terms of just a lot more schools back then that had this program that showed up. Yeah, and as Charlotte was talking about student led, I feel like some of the things were, but I'm just assuming because of how big and grand the conference was back then that it was majority of the adults handling the sessions. So it was nice to see Like we said, this just being more student-led and seeing how excited the students were, especially my students. I knew they were very nervous, but once they got out there and realized, they had the freedom and kind of, to do things their way, they were like eager, asking if they could take the mic and, just allowing them, just empowering and allowing them to, take the lead. You'd be surprised with, what comes out of that and how excited they do get and how comfortable they start to get. Because at one point, they didn't even want to share the mic. I'm like, hey guys, come on. But yeah, like I said, just the more student led and just empowering their voices and allowing them to let us know what is going on. Because I feel like, yes, some issues are still similar from what we've seen in the past, but I think just obviously with technology and other things, the scope of some of the issues are different, and some things that none of us, even myself, even though I feel like I can relate to them age wise, I'm like, oh, some of the things with technology, I'm like, I genuinely don't know, I can't relate, I've never experienced this. So learning that from them as well, and just, yeah, being open to hear their feedback and what they want to see. So
Thank
yes.
you. You mentioned because you also attended conferences when you were a student. How do you think the environment of the conference played a role, whether it was back then or today? How?
Yeah, I think just having people like-minded people in the same room, like with Shiloh, them saying how they just was able to invite open invitation whoever was there. So I feel like everyone who was there genuinely wanted to be there. Like, yeah, you had some students that just kind of wanted to get out of class, and who doesn't love a field trip day? But excuse me, I feel like majority of the people, and of course the adults involved, knew what the purpose was. We didn't shy away from what mediation was about. Like, yes, it's to come together and meet people, but still the main focus is of mediation, what it does and how it can help us. So yeah, I just feel like people wanting to be there, and then the adults being real good at focusing back, like, hey, why are we here? You know what I mean? So I feel back then and today, that's what kind of keeps it going. And yeah.
Thank you. Were there moments where maybe you saw students take leadership in unexpected ways? Surprise you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think when it came to grouping, how we were really trying to switch up with schools, I think kids that were kind of shy and, like, just kind of stay together. I seen students from other schools actually try to come in and just be like, hey, try to separate that without being, kind of like, but yeah, like I said, just them taking the initiative to really meet and mix up with new people. I know the middle schoolers were a little bit shy, so it was nice to see the high schoolers. I kind of encourage the high schoolers a little bit, but once you did, they were really good with coming, to the middle schoolers and trying to get the group mixed up and really meet new people and get out their comfort zone and whatnot. So that was good to see.
Seems like there's a lot of good energy. Do you have ideas on like how we might bring some of this energy back to school campuses? Or is it happening already?
Yeah, for the most part, I think as us as adults, you know what I mean? I think how we show up and the energy we bring, I think that plays a big role in the environment and how students react and, play off each other. So I feel like, yeah, it does start with us in a sense. And
That's
that,
the feedback too
yeah,
that we got in the post survey. They want more opportunities like this. They were asking for more. Some of our students in the survey from HTA were asking, can we have
yes,
more conferences just with HTA students? Like, I don't,
yes.
like, I'm not sure exactly what all your schools might have said too, but they want this. They want these opportunities to talk and connect to each other.
So you're
Yeah.
thinking
So
like a 39th and a half annual?
yeah, mine too. They were like, because I had a lot of new mediators this year. They're like, wait, we just do this once a year. I said, yeah, it's just every year in March. And they were like, dang, can we have more? I said, we can see. But I said, usually it's an annual thing. I said, annual is like yearly. But I said, something we can bring up. But yeah, no, they were like, wait, just once? I said, yeah. But I said, we can see.
It's funny because I had a couple seniors. Actually, most of mine were seniors, and they were
Mhm.
like, I swear they sounded like these old people. They're just like, oh, that's what's so like our last god friends. And I'm just like anyway, I was like, you can always come back and support who wants to be, like help me with peer mediation. And they were kind of actually open to it because they just love the experience so much. It's so cute. They just really love that experience. Yeah.
Alumni? Do we need alumni to come
I
back?
know, right? Yeah.
That'd be good. Make them a panel.
I'm gonna write that down
Then we
somewhere.
can have the what is it, mediation reunion.
I love that. Well, it sounds like there is definitely I mean, I know the logistics and the work that took to just put on the 1 year, but
Yeah.
maybe if there's we can brainstorm later on, maybe something in the fall or
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
see
one
what
in the fall,
develops.
one in the spring. Yeah.
Maybe the fall one could be alumni related. I don't know when the
True.
alumni are around, but yeah.
And planning for the spring.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
We did have some HTA alumni that are now employed at HTA
Oh,
in
wow.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh
and
yeah, that was true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's funny because you say like an old person back in my day, they were all like,
Yeah.
"Back in my day, we didn't have this. Oh, these
Yeah.
people have these great opportunities." I was like, and you do too, because you are here as well. There was a fun moment where everybody, when they walked in, they had a sheet that had them intention set, like what's your intention for this conference? And again, as I said, I was like trying to be very intentional, looking at all of their notes, listening to everybody. And there was a section that said, try to meet 3 new people and come up with how you will continue this connection with them. And on one paper, I saw my 7th grader write down this girl's name. I really liked her. She was very nice. We connected over empathy bingo. And then on her paper, she had written the same thing. And I said, "How are you guys going to connect with each other?" And she looked at me and she said, "I don't know. They go to a different school. She's a senior. How am I supposed to?" I was like,
Yeah.
she's right there. Like the opportunity is right there. Sometimes you just need and
Mhm.
then they ended
go
up
talk
connecting.
to each other.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
talk to each other, like matchmaking here. And then she said, "Can you ask her handle?" I'm like, "I don't even know what that means." But now they follow each other and they talk to each other. And so it
Yay.
need to wait until a big hurrah, although the 40th will be a big hurrah.
Actually, yeah, creating
Point
connections.
6.7. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So it's
When I get
little moves, little ripples.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I was going to share one thing that just came into mind for alumni, because I know many of our alumni are sometimes not even on island. We could just, if you all are up for it, we can talk more about it later, but we could do something virtual. The alumni
Mhm.
come together, we do some breakout room stuff, and just to get alumni from different schools to know each other. And then maybe when they come back for the holidays, they can do their own little reunion or gathering. Just a random idea. But,
Yeah.
well, thank you. I love it. Love everything. And so, Shelly, question for you. What skills do you see students practicing or strengthening during the conference? What stood out to you?
I think honestly, just the chance to speak in front of a group of people and kind of what Shiloh and Maya was saying, like just the opportunity to have this conference experience as teenagers and for it to be student driven is so awesome. I think I didn't have that experience until maybe after college. Um, so yeah, to have that experience and to see them being like, okay, I've got to step up now and actually hold a mic, like Tino was saying. And, we there was some mic issues, right? So those things we've all had that experience, right? Where we're trying to present in front of a large group of people and it can be intimidating. And then on top of that, there's technical difficulties like a mic not working. So, yeah, just that experience for them to do it themselves and to see it's okay. And as adults, it's hard not to be like, okay, just let me do it. I can just step up and yell, because I can project. But it was fine. I think you feel that hesitancy, right? Of like, okay, can they handle this? This is a weird moment. I want to save them, but um, I think it actually worked out really well. And yeah, just really neat to see the kids all step up to it. Everybody had some little issue, but everybody was also able to work up to it. So yeah, just
Love that. It's a good reminder how we need to pivot. I feel
yeah,
like we should just have these moments where the mics definitely do not work or other
yes,
little things just intentionally placed.
yeah.
How are you going to react? Oh,
Well,
we
wasn't
forgot to
it
print out.
intentional? Actually, we
We
did. That was
forgot to
intentional,
print.
right, Shiloh and Maya? Part of your planning, right? I mean, you were thinking that was part of your talk through.
We almost didn't have the projector screen too. Like
There you go.
it's like we were 5 minutes to start and our projector wasn't working, but we got it. So
Yeah.
You know, we
Amazing.
would have just pivoted and the kids would be I mean, hey, they just have to practice listening better if they're quieter on mic.
Yeah.
There were
Were there,
many moments when all the adults were standing in the corner going, "It's fine.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
got it.
I know.
They
Exactly.
got it. Yeah, they're doing it."
We're okay. Yeah.
oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Were there any like breakthrough or aha moments you witnessed besides the mic breaking?
Um, just that I think knowing I feel like just creating this community, allowing this the kids to make these connections on their own is just really cool. So hopefully one day they'll be like Tino, or like, I mean, they're already saying that, right? Like, I want to come back, I want to like be helping
Shelly's
with
planning her
this. So
retirement.
yes, yeah. Who's ready to step up? Yeah.
Love it.
So it's just really neat to see them, like seeing the kids from last year, and again, just bringing up their memories from previous conferences. And yeah, just kind of, again, just inspiring to see the kids like step up to um not only presenting in conference, but just I feel like, yeah, you do feel like a matchmaker in a way. Like Maya said, like one of my boys is going to was applying to UW, and another kid, I think from, was it Betty? Is it one of your students? I think from UH Lab School is applying to UW as well. So they like, I was like, okay, talk to each other, but how cool would that be if they have this friend from another school, from Hawaii, and they both go to school at University of Washington. I think that'd be really neat. So yeah, just this community that they have, and just like making it so that, yeah, later on maybe they'll see these people down the road, maybe at college, I don't know. And then that, just seeing what's going to happen in the next generation is really just inspiring me, I guess. Yeah.
No, thank you. You kind of like, I had some follow-up questions, but I think you definitely answered, how do these skills translate beyond mediation into everyday life? And uh, but if you want to add anything more to that, but what I heard
Yeah.
is definitely the connection, the relationship building is core.
Yeah, no, I definitely think they've used it throughout they'll definitely use those skills throughout their lives. I wish we actually had an alumni piece, because we actually went on an excursion to UH a week after the conference, and one of our previous mediators goes to school at UH and obviously wanted to join us for lunch, because our students are always motivated by food. And so she mentioned it. She was just like, "I'm so excited for you guys. Went to the conference." And she's like, I've definitely used the skills with my boyfriend. I'm so happy you guys are using these skills." So it was kind of cool to see it go full circle like that. And she just joined us for lunch. It was just a short excursion to UH. That, yeah, here they are seeing a student that graduated a few years ago, and she's using the skills, and it was just really neat to see that. So yeah.
Love that. And I remember at the conference, I was introduced to, I think she's one of the seniors from HTA. I don't remember her name, but she's coming to UH next year, I heard. And she's also interested in like studying peace and conflict and mediation further. Um, and this alumni piece would be wonderful because then I could connect her with your
Yeah.
alumni. So maybe
Yeah.
when I hear from her, I will reach out to you just to, but yeah, I think, okay,
Yeah.
something we're taking away from today is definitely maybe 40th is the opportunity to start building that alumni piece.
Love
We
it.
have done,
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
Got it
cool.
down. It's gonna happen.
Especially the
yes.
UH kids, like, that are, because you're inviting people from UH. Sorry, I've gotta.
Yeah. No, and actually, I happen to have a friend faculty who is from Hiroshima who was visiting that day, and thank you for welcoming her. And her takeaway, she's like, I've never seen anything like this. She's like, but it was so much fun. She's like, it was
Yay.
so great to just see the students taking the lead. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I think we do have something special here. So thank you for all you continue to do. She's going to shift a little to Shiloh and maybe Shelly. What goes behind the scenes to plan an event like this each year? I know, Shiloh, you were very much heading up keeping us in order. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
A planning document and giving people tasks and just saying, hey, here's a deadline. I think that that's really the main thing. Securing the space. And again, this year we really set the goal of like having it a lot more student led. So, really setting those intentions way back. I think our first meeting was in September or October. I mean, we started at the beginning of the year. So that's really sort of our behind the scenes, but then, bringing in the students and having them weigh in on things and, look at what happened last year, all these aspects, those are all really important. I know my students had a lot of fun taking a little walk and field trip down to the venue space and meeting the coordinators there and looking at the space, and we started to mock up the designs for like how we would set up the tables. And then the morning of, we only were going to use half the room, and then they gave us the full room. So we got so lucky, and we had to change gears and figure out, okay, now we have this bigger space. How do we accommodate and make sure it's still open and welcome, and we can still do all these activities and have space in the middle? So we kind of had to switch gears really quick. And I think those are really important skills that students can learn now, like as you got to learn to pivot in these cases. We talked about the mic already, like you have to go with the flow sometimes at events, and they learned those skills. And that's, I think, a really valuable thing on top of course, leading the sessions and, having the students really intentionally group together with people from different schools or even different age levels, or middle or high school from HTA. So all of those different aspects are really important in the behind the scenes. Coordinating food, also getting the numbers right. I did the math a bunch of times and I think I still got it wrong, but hey, it's okay. We had enough food for everyone and more. I don't know if
Yay.
anybody else wants to add something.
I guess I just had the opposite problem when we did the conference at Kailua High. I just had 2 classrooms, and I it just kind of was limited by that space. So you just, like you said, have to be flexible overall, and kind of go with what you have. And no matter what, I think that just the energy the kids bring really makes it okay. And they get so excited seeing each other. I really feel like it's almost like impossible for them not to have fun, because it's kind of like they're on a first date. At first they'll be like what, oh, I don't know, and then they're all excited and they don't want to leave, and then of course they're like so sad that they're seniors and they'll never go to this conference ever again. So it's it's really cute how this relationship kind
But
of builds.
maybe it will change when we add the alumni perspective to
Yes,
it. There you
yes.
go.
Second life, a circle of life.
There you go. Oh, and then I know Betty, you've also hosted in the past, but Maya, you go ahead. I'm gonna say something.
I was gonna add that besides the doc, using a lot of text threads is really beneficial too. And we included some of our students that were helping with the facilitation in this. So just really being transparent with them about the issues. Shiloh is very humble. She's forgetting the part that the Philcom business manager said, "Oh, we're going to be testing our fire alarm throughout the hours of," and it was exactly the time of the conference. And Shiloh's like, "What do we do?" And just like being fully transparent with, this is life. This is how it goes. So like these de-escalation, reframing, dialogue techniques that we teach in peer mediation, they're not peer mediation skills. They are life skills. And I'm like, "Go get them, Shiloh." And then like, "How did it go? And how can we help?" And they're on the ground with us because they have seen the whole scope and sequence, because they've been a part of building this and co-designing it from the start. So they know they have the initiative. They're ready to pick up where we left off and get other sentinels, those are my middle schoolers, on the ground to help out, So it was for sure a group effort.
Thank you. What's one challenge you would say that comes up every year, and how do you navigate it? Nothing comes anything.
I honestly think that kids, for me personally, get so busy, especially as they get older.
Mm,
So by
yeah.
the time they're really involved, or we really want them involved in peer mediation, they're usually juniors and seniors. And at that point, they have so many different classes and just other obligations. So they'll typically take all their AP classes and they want to be involved in leadership and all these other things. So it's like, it's not that they don't want to be involved or that they don't think this is important, but sometimes because they're trying to juggle so many things, sometimes it's hard for them to really step up and be there where we need them to be. So it just takes, I'm sure for you guys have noticed a lot of pushing, like, remember, we're still mediators and we have this conference coming up like tomorrow. So I need that excursion form or, whatever it is they need to do.
Yeah, I agree. Same, like you said, especially junior, senior year. And then yeah, I think just the form, because of course they're all excited, they want to come. And it's just a matter of just rewriting, like, hey, get these forms signed, get these form signs, and they're good. Sometimes like, hey, I'm so sorry, I lost it. Can I get another? Which is fine, but it's yeah, like Charlotte said, trying to finalize the number because I'm like, you have to report a number for food. I need to figure out, do I need to get a bus or can both of our cars take you guys? So, and of course, I don't mean to, cause that, but I think like I just like we said, just getting the forms in on time and making sure that everyone does have an opportunity because they all want to go, which is great. But it's just a matter of okay now being responsible and actually getting it done and making it happen type of thing. So sometimes yeah, I feel like that's really the only challenge. But other than that, no, our students are really good with responding to emails, to texts, to asking questions and all those things. But yeah.
I had a couple of seniors driving their own car, and I think they did a little holo holo side trip because they were a little late. So I was like, they're like 20 minutes late, but they were there.
A whole group that came in with a huge box of snacks.
Oh.
Like, hey, we're here. It felt like a party. It was really fun.
Uh-huh.
All walking in with like, we have things to share.
Yay.
Oh, those are my kids. I was like, just
Yeah,
find a table.
that was great. They pulled in, they're like, we got the good stuff.
I mean,
Like
I was
oatmeal
gonna
bars.
say,
Like,
I was gonna say this wasn't a challenge. This was just like an exciting part is we had some students from other islands and
Mm.
leaders
Mhm.
from other islands this year. So it was truly Hawaii overall,
Yes.
and not just Oahu. So I'm excited to see also how we can, gather more people
Continue.
to our
Mm-hmm.
community and reach out to other schools. So I think we can ask the students if they have some ideas on that because they are very creative thinkers.
I would say probably the biggest challenge, but it's also an opportunity, is just being really, again, transparent about what this conference is about. Some people will see it published on our website or promoted and think, oh, peer mediation, I'm not a part or affiliated with that bubble. I don't do that, so I'm not supposed to go. So it's just kind of dispelling the misconceptions about who is this for, who does it benefit, and making that really clear. In a debrief afterward, one of our students had recommended making videos that promote and a commercial. And she's like, just show the pictures of what we did. Everyone will want to come. And just being like giving a sample mediation. This is what we're talking about. And even in the little quads where the students got together, there was that moment of silence. And I think we got on the mic and said, hey, you might not feel 100% comfortable doing this, and that's okay. You're all welcome. Like wherever you are is exactly where you need to be. There aren't any pros at this. Just go through the process. And once they were like, again, given that invite and that release to just try it out and trust the process and trust the protocols, then they leaned in and really enjoyed the experience. But it's that whole like imposter syndrome, right? Like, do I belong? Am I doing it right? There's somebody else that knows more, and just kind of we're all on an equal playing field. We're all in it together. So better communication in that sense
Yes, thank you.
could be an opportunity for us.
No, thank you. Betty, if you don't mind me, I'm going to shift to you a little bit. How do mindfulness, social emotional learning shaped the planning and facilitation of this conference. I know you hosted us a couple years ago.
Mhm. Yeah, and then also just to kind of jump off from my bio of teaching kids life skills that go beyond the classroom. That's kind of my philosophy, and especially what I do with the elective class that I teach, the peer mentorship elective, which is becoming peer mentorship and mediation. Um, but the social emotional aspect, the emotional intelligence is a huge component of what I teach the students. It's kind of the foundation of everything they do. And so much of mediation is a part of it. So the self-awareness piece of, what am I feeling right now? How is this situation triggering me? That sort of situation. And then the self-management. Okay, now how do I handle my emotions? Even something as basic as having the students make their groups, and they're having to overcome those natural emotional tendencies to want to hold back or be shy. And then being able to manage that kind of situation is an important piece. And so that kind of awareness goes into the planning. So the first thing, I feel like every conference that I've been a part of, this was only my third one, but we're always starting off with some sort of get to know you, empathy, that kind of piece, so that we get the students to kind of break the ice. They're icebreakers, and that's a huge foundation of emotional intelligence, is just being able to communicate and be open and share and that sort of thing. The communication skills that are such an important piece of mediation and emotional intelligence. I mean, the two just go together hand in hand. There's there's honestly no separation. You asked me how it goes into the shaping and planning. I don't know that it was so intentional that, okay, we need to like align these things. It just sort of happens naturally. Like every presentation that the students did definitely had an emotional intelligence piece to it. And then the mindfulness, I don't really do it intentionally, but I catch my students taking breaths before they're ready to present and doing things like that. They're nervous, so they're like talking about it, and then how they know how they can handle it, and to me that's like a mindfulness type of component that just naturally underlines everything. Yeah, that's pretty much how I see it. It's not on purpose that it aligns. It's part of the foundation of it.
I think it also speaks to the fact that it's so kind of what Maya talked about every day. It's not just teaching specifically peer mediation skills, it's life skills. So it's so embedded into our everyday routine, which is really wonderful. Um, I know sometimes mindfulness gets some hesitation from some folks who don't understand it or see how they use it on an everyday basis. How do you support students who may be new or resistant to mindfulness?
I love that question. Um, Mindfulness is just being aware of what's happening in the present moment. That's that's really all it is. So mindfulness plays into everything from taking a shower and being aware of the feeling of the water hitting and the soap and to having a conversation with your best friend. Am I fully present and showing up for my friend and listening to my friend right now? And what's happening to me as I listen to my friend share their story, to a formal practice of sitting peacefully, quietly, and just noticing what arises. And a lot of times we have different themes, different lessons, and things that we choose to focus on or think about or journal about or whatever. But it's honestly just that, just being aware of what's going on in the present moment. And there's so many people that when they are hesitant, and students especially are very hesitant, and then they try it. And even if they don't, sometimes it doesn't catch, I have to say, especially the lower age of the student, the more resistant they tend to be, or this is weird, or I don't get it. Come around and they go to college and they come back and they tell me, "Oh, I meditate now." Or, like it's something that it, even if it doesn't catch right away, it's a seed that's been planted that they can rely on as they make their way through life. So that's what I would say to that.
I love it. They realize actually I need to meditate with all the things I'm juggling in college. So,
You
love
can
it.
meditate in the shower. It's a great place to start.
When you're saying the whole thing about meditating, Betty, I just wanted to say it's so funny because my son was one of the people that I forced, actively to be in my groups, at school. And one of them is positive coping skills. And it's basically we'll do a whole thing on mindfulness and meditation and just, positive coping skills. You don't have to use them if you don't like them. And he's always been very, male, like my positive coping skill is working out, and I actually like knocked on his door just like a couple weeks ago and caught him meditating. And I was just like, yay. Like, obviously I was quiet and didn't bother him. But inside I was cheering very much because it sticks every now and then. You just never know.
Shelly, my daughter, and her boyfriend are the same way, and they both meditate and do yoga. Like, so it comes back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, knowing that Shelly, your son's an athlete, also there's a lot of athletes are more vocal about meditation, how it's been so helpful for just everything they do. It's it's part of that conditioning process. So uh, I don't know if he caught on to that or he was like, "This is helping, and let's stick with it."
It was definitely peer mediation. I'm just gonna take it all.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I definitely think it definitely has to do with a lot of the podcasts out there. I think you're right. It's just, he's like, wow, this thing that we're doing at school, other people are doing it too. So
Mom's onto something. She
yeah,
knows something about something.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. So shifting a little to cross-age learning and community building, Tino, what was the impact of mixing middle and high school students together that you'd like to share?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think the impact on the middle schoolers, and I think it was nice to have, excuse me, the high schoolers there to kind of push them out their comfort zone, make them feel comfortable, and kind of going off of Maya, like everyone's kind of at the same plane. Like, yeah, you may be a bit older and get more experience, but a lot of them, like for example, my group, a lot of them were new first time mediators. So like I said, having the grown-ups there to, like I said, just kind of make them feel a bit more comfortable and just push them a little. And then I think on the other end for the high schoolers, you're having again that giving them the, man, what's the word? Not authority, giving them empowering them to lead. Yeah, again, to lead and for us to kind of step back. Because there are moments and times where I wanted to jump in and be like, hey, this kid here needs, I was like, no, wait, let's just see. I was like, let's see the high schoolers and see how they kind of interact. And like I said, I think especially after they got done like presenting, like each school got done presenting their slides and whatnot, I feel like they got even more confident and felt more comfortable with breaking out in their groups and not just staying with their friends from their schools. I can kind of see a little bit of a gap in terms of course, with anything that comes, I think, with middle and high school. Of course, the middle school a little bit more, just of course, in terms of maturity wise. I could kind of see the lack in that. And then just I think the high schoolers just having to have a little bit more patience, and understanding, with the middle schoolers, like, hey, they want to be serious and they want to take it. But this is also maybe a bit uncomfortable and maybe with some of them just handling it with just like humor or just being like, awkward, don't want to do it. So I could kind of see the gap with that at certain points. I think especially with, was it the simulation? I forgot which activity where I could kind of see like, okay, maybe this would have been a bit better if we could just, in this sense, like just have middle schools with middle schoolers and high schoolers with high schoolers. We can also be in the same room, but I feel like maybe conversations with that one activity could have gone maybe even further. But I just think because of the age, which you know what I mean, will happen. And I think on my end could probably just be preparing my high school students a little bit more, when it comes to like just because I did tell them, there'll be HT with middle schoolers, but I didn't really go much into it, but maybe just preparing for that and having them like, hey, remember you were middle schoolers once too. So remember how you were acting. So now that you're an adult, you act like that before, but now you're a little bit more mature. Now you can kind of step in and help and just, be a bit more patient and understanding. Like, girl, you was like that too. Like, chill out. You know what I mean? But other than that, it was just nice, like I said, to see the middle schools at the end because I forgot what boy, but he was so popular. I think at from HT, like everyone knew his name. This middle schooler, all my kids knew his name. Like they were all so excited. Like and that middle schooler, like just to see him so like, known and wanted, and that was just so nice, like to see at the end. Like I said, and he was just kind of the topic of discussion. I was like, "Who was that kid?" They're like, "Oh, that's our boy. That's our friend, so and so." And I was like, I'm pretty sure you guys made that middle schoolers day because he just looked so happy that everyone from like so many schools, that all high schoolers knew him. So that was, like I said, nice in the end to see and yeah, understand, like especially high schoolers. You were there once now. Now you're here now. How can you help this generation coming up? You know what I mean? Be that leader and kind of see where, like, hey, this is where we're at now. So yeah, that was just kind of my takeaway with mixing the middle and high schoolers.
I think his name was shared in the by a couple people at the end of the
Yes,
conference
him.
as their one word reflection.
Yes, they loved him. Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing up,
Yeah.
themes of like mentorship and peer modeling that stood out. Because this was the first time I think we've had middle school students with high school students. I
We had
haven't
last
been
year.
with.
Last
Oh, we
year
did
too.
have last year. Okay, but I
Many.
think we had a little
Yeah.
more middle
Yeah, I
schoolers
think
this
more middle
year
schoolers
than
this year.
yeah
A
than
good
last
amount.
year. Yeah. Um, how any ideas? And this is just for you or other folks. How would you recommend expanding this model? Uh, do you think it would work with like because peer mediation technically the training I hear started as early as like third grade
Yeah, like
sometimes in elementary
elementary.
schools
Mm-hmm.
all the way to high school. I don't know if the conference has always been all the ages since it started,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't been with it for I've
But
only been
Shelly
with the
would know
conference for
better
10
than
years
me,
or
but
so.
No, I honestly don't think it ever included elementary, but it always included middle. And it was interesting because we just randomly every now and then have a middle school. So it's always been that they've just been kind of mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know on Kauai there used to be a really strong peer mediation program at an elementary school, and I did try to invite them to our conference. It was just too bad because that woman retired. And they lost their peer mediation program. But I think that little kids, especially, I actually think sometimes the maturity level developmentally is higher in fourth, fifth, sixth grade sometimes. We lose our frontal cortex sometimes in our adolescence just due to hormones and trying to build new circuits. um, in our teenage years. So sometimes, yeah, they tend to be more mature, I would say, sometimes than our um,
We could have better
high schoolers.
we could have better mediators in third, fourth grade for
Yes,
those high school
the
students is
logic
what I'm
is
hearing.
still there, strikingly. I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, I,
mm,
I think it could actually work, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I could add here,
yeah.
because our school is a K through 12 school, it could be a really important piece here. We look for ways to get the grades to collaborate. And because my elective class is a peer mentorship class, we have an elementary group that goes down to the elementary school. We have a middle school group that actually goes in and works with middle schoolers twice every quarter, and then we invite them up for lunch twice every quarter. So I don't know that extra piece is definitely something I'm going to be looking at going forward. Um, Logistically speaking, transporting as many high schoolers as I already have in the group and then adding another group of middle schoolers, that'll be it. That'll be it. That would be my challenge for next year, would be transporting if I were to try to get a whole nother, high school group. But I think it would be awesome to start bringing up middle schoolers and get them exposed to it more. Um, yeah, because currently they don't really see it, what happens with the whole mediation process. So I think that would be my next step at my school would be to start expanding the program to bring those middle schoolers in. And they already are talking about, my high schoolers are talking about practicing mediation, providing the service for elementary. Like they want to do that. They want to be able to help resolve elementary conflicts if they can. So that's something they're trying to figure out a way that they could do that. So.
Well, and,
Awesome.
and I wrote down, you just said that that's your next step. I just wrote down to do, talk to Betty. Because HTA too is a K through 12 continuum. And my middle schoolers have loved the opportunity. I mean, when it was time to start planning this conference, our new peer education program members were like, what is that? And all the alumni were like, it's awesome, you're gonna love it, and they were just like already that ripple effect, right? And what they came out of is that they want more mediation practice. They want more scenarios. They want to do that. But as middle schoolers, they would not feel comfortable in such a small school mediating their peers. And they actually proposed we could help the elementary. And then they came up with this idea of if the high schoolers helped us and we helped the elementary, then it could be a whole school endeavor. Which then brings us to this whole thing, Betty, of like, we live in a virtual space, right? So if we had either time slots where the students could come and receive that training, have that talk story, have that time to like, you want to sign up for a session, you want to meet with a mediator, or you want to practice, then we could continue that through the power of technology.
Yeah, maybe even have some online workshops that are, not an entire conference, but just, let's have a workshop this quarter, one per quarter or something that's online. Yeah, that would be fun, I think, and have the kids run it.
You're on my to-do list.
Because it could start connecting the schools before we actually just get to the one, annual conference, and they could already start to meet each other and get to know each other.
Maybe if that's what the fall one is, it's a middle school one that's like a focus, and then we just have like a few high school students that are, I don't know, more of the chaperone, mentor, people, and then the high school one it could be, I don't know, an all ages one again. But
the power of breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Where all things die.
Yeah. No, at one point we were going down to the middle schools and doing presentations, and at one point also Kailua Intermediate had a peer mediation program. So that definitely is inspiring me too. Like, how can I reach out more? And then if there was one at the middle school, maybe we could team up together and work with the elementary schools. So yeah, lots of possibility there.
Thank you. And Maya, thank you so much for bringing the middle school students, which you work with on an everyday basis. You inspired us. And since, what kind of feedback did you get from, since you specifically work with the middle school students? I know we heard a little bit. I wonder if there's anything additional that really stood out to you.
Oh, just exactly what has been said. They're excited for more. I was telling Shiloh right before we sat down, we looked at the student voice and we looked at the feedback that they gave us, and it says we liked mingling with older, younger, same age. We liked that we were forced to mingle. We liked that we got to meet different schools, and our suggestion is more schools, more islands. So anytime I looked at Shiloh, I said anytime that the feedback says we want more of this, I think we're on the right track. So that was, they feel empowered. A lot of like what Tino said, this intermixing of ages, it's real life, that's how things get done. It's an empathy building connectivity experience for the high schoolers to grow as mentors, and the younger to grow as leaders, because they have that mentorship and they have that model. So you asked early on, what is it like as a teacher or an educator in the room? We kind of become the facilitator that just creates the space and step back, because so much more gets done when we hand it over to the students. They understand each other a lot more, and they lift each other and amplify each other's voices a lot more effectively than any of us can.
No need to apologize. I love it. Thank you so much. It reminds me almost of like Montessori education, cross age, cross years, but there's a strong focus on that cross age learning to not build leadership and empathy among students, which is really wonderful. As we look at so we the conditions to help make cross-age collaboration, this open space, the conference, Tino talked about some of the challenges that can arise, making sure like, hey, the language or like, be conscientious of, and I think that's a really great um, lesson into also like code switching, which we pick it up in life and we're like, oh, this is not my friends. This is a workplace. I need to like act a certain way or use a certain type of language or, you know, so for just everyone in general, just any thoughts on how schools can replicate this dynamic on their own campuses? The boss age learning and building leadership. I know we talked about possibly, another half conference or another conference or whatever we want to call it, a seminar in the fall, but on your individual campuses, whether it's weekly, daily, monthly, any thoughts on how to let go and let the students take over?
We're starting to do something, and I can see that also happening on Betty's campus with the middle school, going to the elementary. But our high schoolers, a few of them go every week and work with the middle school club that we have for our peer educators. So they're apart. We're in a group chat of like what is happening this week. And even though I don't go to all those meetings, I'm involved in like helping kind of with what's going to be done and what the lessons are going to be taught. But essentially, Maya's kind of handed it off to the students to help lead those. So maybe you can speak more to that, but we're starting something, and that was very intentional in the model, like of how do we want to connect our programs and also be feeders to like the high school, to get started at this early age.
Right. And it's, it started with the peer education program middle school club and peer education program high school class, where these high schoolers are coming into my club weekly, but then I keep saying ripple, but that's really what's happening. It came into, hey, you have a theater performance coming up soon. We want to come and help you. We want to come and give you feedback before you do that performance. It started, you have a class that you need help in. Hey, we want to come. So they're coming on their off days of class time. Anytime that these seniors who are juggling so many different things, they have pockets of time. They call them our little nuggets. They say, okay, little nuggets. They come in, and so it's like they are another entity. Jose, when you gifted us with your time and you did that, the workshop with the middle school, those high school seniors came down on a voluntary basis and they wanted to help out. It starts small, and then you just keep on inviting and they keep on showing up, and the connections are out of our hands. It's grown to something bigger and more beautiful. And I bring food.
Yes.
Helps. I always send my email. Anybody want to bring snacks? I will have. It's always important.
Students are very food driven. For sure. I wanted to add to that because Jose, you were asking about other schools and how they would get started. And I think it's important to mention that if you need that at least one individual that's very adult, that's very passionate, and then that's going to be the spark for the program, because I keep hearing, oh, this person retired and the program didn't last. And unfortunately, that's what'll happen. I would love to figure out how can I make a legacy? How can I, right? How can I know that when I retire, this program would continue on, even if I wasn't there? What can I do to set into place to make it easy for people to step into those shoes, to make sure the students have really got a handle on it, that they could continue without me, make myself obsolete if I'm able to do that. That would be awesome. But it's hard to do, and I think that's a key piece that people should be aware of. That if Susan has said that if you don't have that key individual there that's got the spark, that's willing to be the adult in the room with the program, that it's hard to keep it going. So it's definitely going to take that.
Yeah. Just the belief that the kids can carry it through, because I think that's a big thing. Like we're all here knowing that kids can do this work, even young kids, but Yeah, how do you find people that have faith in kids and believe they can do this type of work?
So some things I'm hearing, and I think we're kind of possibly answering our own question is, well, there's this alumni network which we're going to start, which
Yes.
hopefully that will nurture, because I know Shelly's and
Uh-huh.
Betty want to figure out who their alumni is.
Yeah.
Um, and simultaneously, I think, I don't know if it was Shiloh or Maya talked about like, oh, bring a friend, everyone. So maybe for future conferences, we should bring other teachers or other employees from your schools who you think might have, or maybe throughout the year, if they're interested to like sit in, learn more about, as you just talk story over lunch, or I'm assuming no one just eats at their desk lunch and while they're juggling work, but hopefully there's a bit of a employee lunchroom or something. And as you talk story about things you're all doing, you might share this as well. And who knows, maybe there's, I know sometimes in the past, Shelly, you've had interns too,
Yeah.
or students doing their masters in
Mhm.
different counseling, or even with Tino being in social work, sometimes folks don't think of like, oh, I get a social work degree and then I could actually be working in a high school setting. um, I could be involved with I could be leading peer mediation programs. So I think what I've always seen is sometimes we don't see the straight line until we start reflecting upon, you all have a very wide variety. I mean, Betty, you're in the sciences. Shiloh, you're a history teacher. Tina's a
Well,
social
Jose,
worker.
I was going to say that's exactly how I got in this program is Jose I worked with on some history projects about peace education. And for about the past 5 years, 5 years ago, we got connected. And then ever since then, he's like, what do you think about peer mediation? Would you like to start something at your school? And I'm like, I don't know if I feel qualified to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to start that. And then he said, well, come to this peer mediation conference. So I came to the one that was hosted at University Lab School, and then look at me.
Yay.
Yeah, you
That
took
summer,
over.
me and
Thank you.
Maya were saying, "Hey, we both have this idea. What if we get this started?" And guess what? Maya had been to a conference session that Shelly had run at the Schools of the Future and said, "I'm interested in this program. How can we make something happen at our school?" So 2 years ago, we met over the summer and we intentionally created this, flow of like how it's going to happen at our school. How do we build the middle school and the high school programs? And now, the kids are taking the lead hosting this annual conference. So it really is about that invite and just, expressing, hey, come try this out. Feel connected. You can be a part of our community. So
Oh
I
my
love
gosh. We should actually like propose the Schools of the Future conference thing, like saying, oh my God, connection. That could totally be. I totally forgot about that.
We,
Yeah.
we we did talk about it in the past meeting.
it.
I know we were juggling a couple things, but yeah, whether it's you all, whether it's you and your students, you and your alumni, yeah, there's lots of possibilities.
Shiloh, I love that you shared that because I had forgotten that that's actually how that all happened. So I thought that
Yeah.
that was great to hear that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. I feel like sharing one other piece. Um, Social emotional learning was the buzzword in the teens, right? It was, and I feel like it peaked during COVID because we were so worried about our kids. And now I don't even hear it anymore. I'm not even hearing it. But I was at a big social emotional conference that was wrapping up years and years of grants that had been happening. And this was all the recipients of the grants that had come together. And this was the last time that we were all going to be together. And we had been together for years. Like I want to say this was probably the fourth or fifth time that these same people and the grant providers, everybody had come together. And so the question was, where do we go now? What's the next step? And I look out into what is happening in our world, and if we have been able to build these emotional intelligence. I like to kind of revert to what is it originally? Originally it's just emotional intelligence, right? If we have been able to focus on social emotional learning, build these emotional intelligence skills, the next step has got to be building the bridges between the communities, the peace building aspect of it. Like that's just the natural next step. And you look in our communities today, and it's so needed, so necessary. We need those bridges. People have become very tribal, very, I'm on this side, this is my team, and this is what we, and then we're not even listening anymore. And, it's this um not just skill, but this it's more than a skill. It's embodying that, like, how can I be a bridge and build peace between communities? Like, I think that's just so much of what's needed. And it's definitely the next, like, that's where this Titanic ship should probably turn, in my opinion.
Yay. I totally agree.
Yeah, we need to build that peace literacy, right? They need to learn how to do that, and we can do that through these mediation skills that they're learning at the conference, but of course throughout the whole year. So
True.
love
And
these ideas for opportunities.
yes.
True. And our kids only know, whatever the adults or the community, the way they're handling conflict or just handling other people or different opinions. And that, that's all they see happening. And that's unfortunately, all they're gonna learn and continue to produce. But yeah, no, I agree, Betty. That's a really, really, really great point.
One thing that just came to mind, sometimes when we've had time, we add this to the conference. I don't think we did it this year, but that extra bridge. So we're bridging, middle school, high school. I hear we're bridging elementary with the upper classes too, which is so wonderful. But also letting you know how, like, once they graduate, yes, we're going to develop this alumni network, which creates that extra bridge. But also, how does this relate to careers? Uh, and as myself, as a practicing mediator facilitator, this is what I do for. It's weird to say work because I truly do enjoy it. People are like, so you deal with other people's problems and you enjoy that, but it is very rewarding. And so letting students know how it is something they can do for the long run. It's not just something that kind of just ends in high school per se. So yeah, just kind of like I go into Shiloh or Maya's class, like, please let me know. Happy to be of service, even if virtually. I think just getting students to know how, this isn't just, especially in case, hopefully you never get the question from parents like, why are my kids learning this? Hopefully it's always been good feedback.
Yeah.
Well, it gets me thinking about like challenges and opportunities, right? Like it's so easy today to focus on the challenges that these students or that these young people are facing right now and to point to their distractedness with social media and whatnot. And those are very real challenges for sure. Our youth are navigating a lot right now. They see the mental health issues, they see the financial burden, they live in multi-generational homes. A lot of their families are being chased off the island. All of these things are going on. So it's, instead of focusing on the negative, how can we pivot and put the light on the opportunity and it's like what Betty says, it's giving those multi emotional intelligences and the social emotional learning, it's giving them the skills, because when they have the tools and a real authentic audience, whether that be their career path or their ambition or their potential, I think respectfully, it's unfair to say the kids can carry this, because they cannot, nor should they have to. They need to have a real authentic audience of stakeholders that are listening to them, and ready to take action on their behalf and ready to support them with structures in place for them. We create the conditions for them to practice these tools and to make those connections that will weave together a community that they want to give back in service for our alumni for our alumni to come back. We need to create those conditions now for them to want to come back. yeah, and it's not just like helping them overcome these challenges, but it's helping them lead us through the challenges and find the opportunities. In the pre-survey, I was really proud of this team for coming up with a pre-survey to give to the students ahead of time, because that really showed us where their mindset was. And there was a line in there that said, please don't ever underestimate the students. Just because we are young does not mean we don't understand. Just because we're young doesn't mean that we don't have stressful lives. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was like, thank you for sharing, you know. And it's like such that took such trust, that it's, again, it goes back, kind of points to like we're doing something right if we get these kids elevating their voice in that way, to speak up on their behalf, to see that we are trying to reach out in partnership to build this community. Like Betty said, where are we going to be if we don't have this, if we don't take this work seriously? Where will we be? So
I wanted to add, Jose, you mentioned about showing them examples of what's happening in the community, and I've been meaning to share this link, and I will afterwards with you. The news just had a little mini segment on mediators in the community, and what's happening is families are struggling financially and they're not able to make rent. And so when the landlords are going to try to take them to court, the court is actually telling them, you need to go to mediation. And they had a whole little segment on mediators helping families and landlords resolve their issues and how it's actually being very successful. And it's work, less hard feelings, nobody's getting kicked out on the street, like it's just all good. So I'll share that with you, but that's a perfect example of what's happening in our community. Literally just a few weeks ago this segment popped up, so I will definitely share it. And
Yes.
anyone listening, there's a great example of how this is already being used.
Yeah, and it's actually something that came out of the pandemic. You couldn't just kick people out and leave them out on the streets when we're telling people to stay at home. And so I'm glad that the state has been supportive of that. So yeah, you can't just evict someone. Another one is in the state of Hawaii, you can't just get divorced and go in front of a judge. You're actually mandated to go through mediation before you go in front of a judge. So yeah, if anyone wants, it's easier to get married than to get divorced. It's more expensive to get divorced. So, but yeah, if someone wants to get divorced, they're required to go to mediation, because the judge is not going to spend the time to figure out, like, okay, where do you want your assets to go? How do you want to separate this? And that is one of the biggest amount of cases that it comes down to for mediators out there. Also, recently, I'll share, there's this wonderful organization which I just joined, where actually something that's provided at no cost to farmers. If farmers have conflicts between other farmers, mediation services are available to them. So yeah, I'm one of those on-call mediators for those situations. So
That's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah. So it's embedded in so many different aspects of our society. Every time I talk to anyone who's like a principal or in charge of a business or organization, I'm always like, oh, so what's your conflict management process? Because for the most part, if it's a private business, most of the times they'll just say, especially if it's a larger corporation, they'll just do arbitration. It's like, oh, it goes to a third party, they decide, sometimes without even hearing all the details about it, no conversation. But there are some spaces where you're like, oh, mediation is an option, which I think is also a great insight into, like, this is maybe a place I want to work at. They're open to mediation as opposed to arbitration. So
That's so cool. So, if we wanted to like look for internships or if there are, do you think we would just go through like Mediation Center of the Pacific for students if they wanted to
I guess it comes down to what type of internships you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for the Mediations of Pacific, if they wanted to like actually be volunteer, because all there's mediation centers in every island, and they take volunteer mediators. They require them to go through, I forget how many hours of training. And many times the training they got in high school wouldn't count toward that. They'd have to get versed in all the stuff. But yeah, I mean, if they have the time, and it does cost some money, but if anything, I would say there's options too, because I know that some trainings are done strictly in person. Like I know that some of the other centers are doing virtual training, because especially since the pandemic, a lot of mediations have shifted to virtual mediation. So
Yeah.
you shouldn't be like competing for business, because the world is your oyster as far
Yeah.
as conflicts go. There's a local mediator who, like back in the '90s, started doing this. He's like, oh, he's from Italy. He's like, he lives in Hawaii. He's like, I'm just going to mediate issues in Italy.
Yeah.
I'm not competing. So yeah, there's definitely options. I would say, if anything, just connect us. I'm happy to brainstorm with you
Okay.
or with them, and
Well,
depending
we have a
upon
whole
what they're interested.
internship person that sets up interns for our students.
Oh,
So if
okay.
like they theater like for a couple years and they're interested, maybe I could, I don't know, talk to you first and then
Yeah, no, I mean, because I
yeah.
have students who are interested sometimes. There's
Yeah.
also the local nonprofit Conflict Resolution Alliance, which is made up of
Oh yeah.
various mediators, facilitators, and also just people interested to go into the field. I know in the next, sometime this year, we're trying to get a mentoring program off the ground, so
Nice.
that it's, everyone has to be a member, but for students, I
Yeah.
think it's like $10 for the year, which is reasonable, and they can be matched up with someone who has decades of experience, and you meet virtually or via phone once a month and get to ask your questions, that kind of stuff. So that could be another way to kind of build that bridge.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. But happy to, any ideas you have, happy to, because also, so for some folks who do this, they're just interested in like sometimes peace related work, and more the facilitating aspect of it as opposed to the mediation aspect of it. So happy to provide guidance, and yeah, if I can, or direct me to the right people.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. I know you talked a little about unique challenges and opportunities. I wonder, how can educators more intentionally create space for meaningful, forward-thinking conversations? I know we talked a little bit, you mentioned it a little bit, but I wonder if, especially for people listening, whether they're needing a room, whether they're an educator, whether they are, K-12 faculty and professors at universities, or even just like you're in charge of a business. How can you create space that's more meaningful and forward thinking for conversations, would you say?
Well, I think, it's this whole idea of like we have so much to do, we have to hurry up and slow down. Like, let's figure out what works. Like, look at what was just accomplished. Shelly's hiring some interns, Betty is K through 12 curriculum, Tino is getting all the alumni. It's like this is authentically how things happen. Is you provide that invite, you have players at the table that are able to shape action, and you have the young that are representing their needs in a way that are going to be listened to. And one of the feedbacks that we've done in our peer education program work, Shiloh and I, we had some students that said, we know when teachers ask us but don't listen. Like,
Mm.
we know the difference, and they, like teachers always say they care about what we're saying, but we know if you care or not, like you can't fake it with them. So
Love
authentically,
that.
do we have educators at the table and stakeholders at the table, leadership at the table? We are so fortunate, shout out to HTA, to have our executive director spend the majority of his day with us at the
Yeah,
conference.
that was
And
amazing.
so that investment, that presence is really powerful. And they allowed us to fly someone from another teacher from Kauai to come see. So it's, that leadership matters. HTA recently talked about like that career path of where does this work go? How do you facilitate? How do you ensure that there are authentic conversations happening? So we went to our board and we said, hey, you guys are an entity that has conversations about real life issues. How does that model work? And what started off as like, can you tell us your ways? We had the chair of the board come and talk to us about like, how do you avoid toxic situations? How do you get everybody's voice heard at the adult level? And then it turned into, can can we start coming to your board meetings? And the chair of the board actually invited almost like a student council to be formed, that
That's
the
great.
students meet and then we get represented at the board level. So it's, again, that happened because we scheduled a meeting with different cross age groups coming together and kind of attacking this common issue or opportunity from different aspects and seeing how we could lift each other up. So hurry up, slow down, talk more.
No, I love that. It kind of goes back to that whole concept of shifting your perspective, and you shifted their perspective into a format that maybe they never considered or thought could be possible. And then they're like, oh, they're right here asking to be part of the conversation. So what better time than to do it now? So that's really amazing. Thank you. And yeah, I think it was, I could definitely see the support by HTA when, your leadership is there, and there's funds being spent to fly a student and a teacher over. So I'm excited to see how things develop. I know we've talked a little bit about this, but was there a moment that reminded you of why this work matters for you all? I know there are probably many, but I'm wondering if there's like something that pops up.
For me, it always goes back to, I'm going to give Shayna a shout out. She was our senior facilitator along with her partner Emma. And Shiloh and I have shared many a tear knowing that they are our graduates and they are going to leave us. And we're excited for the opportunities, but we need them to come back to our community. So make sure that that alumni network is alive and well. Early on in the year, we talked about what are the issues that our community faces. And Shayna said, I am terrified of graduating and sitting next to someone that is in my class, but I've never talked to. And that's the bare bones of it. We're all asking for the same thing. We're all asking for a community. We're asking for belonging. We're asking for connection, meaningful pursuits, people to enjoy those pursuits with. Thank you all for being my pursuit partners. We all have our ambitions, and with technology, we should feel more connected than isolated. And we're in the position to connect. That is our line of business here, ladies and gentlemen, and all viewers. We are in the business of connecting and creating connections and conditions for connection. So it goes back to that basic ask. Like, I just want to know who I'm sitting next to. That was my moment.
Those relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a moment. After the end of the conference, we cleaned up and we had the space for an extra hour. So, we finished at 1:30 and we didn't have to be out of there till like 2:30. And so whoever was left helping to clean up from our team of students, we sat around and we sat on the floor because we had moved all the tables and chairs away, but we just literally did a connection of like what was an appreciation or an aha or even an apology, like, hey, I wasn't like fully present in the morning because I didn't have my coffee yet, whatever. Like, they all shared something that was what they really felt about the conference, and that was like a wonderful way to just reflect on the moment and then hear from the student voice again, to really see. So yeah, another shout out to a student who had was our other MC, Leo. They had said, I haven't been to an event like this since I was like in middle school, and we did something kind of like this with the Center for Love and Justice cohort that both Maya and I are in, that also really connects student voice and inner co-collaboration. But they were at that event back in middle school, and now to see it like full round circle, whatever, they were MC at this event. And that was super cool moment to see that confidence and that growth. And so this is why I really think we got to keep inviting the middle school and maybe the elementary, because they just feel more and more empowered and confident as they grow and learn, and the opportunities put before them. So that was my moment. Who else is ready?
Thank you.
Honestly, I just came back from sabbatical, so I really didn't know if we were going to make it. I think I did maybe try to project some confidence, like, oh yeah, I'm bringing 5 to 7 kids, but honestly, I did not get any forms until the day of. So it was just magical, like to come to school and all these kids were there with their forms. They're like, we're going. And I'm like, well, I only can fit 3 or 4 in my car. And then another, like, oh, well, we can drive. Okay. I was like, okay, great. Like, it's just like, we actually are going to have the magic number 7 that I projected. So it was just, yeah, the fact that we made it and kids were still interested in coming. And then it was such a great conference. Like all of them were just like excited and to see kids from other islands. So just on a whole of just making it there. And yeah, we got our peer mediation training for me, like started like 2 weeks, like right before. So we finished it. And then we made it to the conference. So yeah, we were there. So that was my magic moment. Especially when my other kids that drove by themselves were 20 minutes late. So that was
Oh, good. That is quite magical, though, and
yeah.
just really speaks to like, I think they showed up for you. Maybe
Yeah,
they
they
did. It would have
did.
been great to get those forms earlier, so you
I
weren't
know.
like, I
I
guess I'll
know.
just show up by myself.
I know. I was like, is it just gonna be me
All good, all good.
presenting myself at the student-driven conference that's peer-led?
We
Amazing.
celebrate anyone who comes to the table.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
love that.
I guess I'll go ahead and share my moment was when one of my sophomores, so she's brand new to everything this year, sees me. We pass each other in the conference room, and she says, "Miss Skiles, this is great. I love this. I'm so glad you that we're doing this." So that was my moment. Short, sweet, summed it all up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, as I mentioned, like I said, out of I think there was just 7 or 8. I think only 2 were returns. Everyone else was new, but I just think, especially the shyest one, RJ, he's the biggest one there, Tonga. But I think just seeing him wanting to take the initiative, even when we were practicing, before that, when I was like, "Hey, who wants to actually do the role play?" And he was the first one that said yes, and I honestly thought he was gonna be the last. I didn't even think he was gonna volunteer. And so just seeing them practice at the school and then do it live there, and then even more so, just even have that confidence, even more after they got done presenting was so great to see because I guess a lot of them, especially the boys, I kind of just met this past school year. So just seeing how comfortable, like I said, how confident and how much they wanted to be there and wanted to be involved. Like I said, not even, couldn't even get the mic away. So yeah, just people I wasn't expecting to step up. I was like, okay, I guess I shouldn't judge ahead or doubt that. But yeah, just like I said, seeing everyone being comfortable. And I think because yeah, the environment, the students, you know what I mean, they're excited but also kind of nervous about being with other people. But I think, like I said, because the environment was so safe and so welcoming that they really, like I said, wanted to be the adult and wanted to be the one in charge. So he said, especially from the one person I least expected it from. So I was like, oh, great. Now I know you. I'll volunteer you more.
Thank
And I think
you.
they did a great job, honestly, for their first time. I mean, really, like that's so cool. And
Yeah.
I feel like what an opportunity for these kids to like present at this huge conference. If you think about it, there's a lot of adults that wouldn't want to speak in that many with to that big of a group of people. And then also on top of that, we're teaching them how to do this skill that's really uncomfortable for a lot of people as well. So just really neat to see that happen.
How about you, Jose? What was your moment?
I think my moment has been so I unfortunately wasn't as involved in the planning this year, but I'm so thankful for you all coming together, Shiloh organizing us with the doc. My moment was walking in, and I think it's been a couple of years now where I rest assured. I always ask like, "Is there anything you need me to do, bring?" And they're like, "No, just show up." I think that is my moment, and yeah, being able to bring folks who have never experienced this and just letting I prefaced, the folks that I brought in. I'm like, it's not your typical conference. You don't need to dress up in a suit or anything. I know it's called the conference, It's student led, so just be ready to participate, to engage, to meet new people. That's really so. Yeah, my moment has just been. I mean, there were so many. I think connecting to my brain. I don't remember her name, but meeting a student who wants to pursue this beyond high school, asking about. I think she wants to do a major in peace and conflict resolution when she comes to UH, which I was like, oh, this is amazing. You know, this is what you kind of hope for, but you know, you're like, you know, you can study whatever you want. It's okay. But you know, wanting to nurture that further and be able to provide that guidance and letting them know that we're here. So I know the middle school students were there last year, but they're in larger amounts this year. So you could truly see, and maybe they were just more vocal this year than I think they were last year because it was their first year. So yeah, I think overall, it's just everyone that does this. It's weird to call it work
Yeah.
because sometimes people have like a bad connotation to work, but it is kind of like a passion, and I love the fact that you all have been so over the years have been so receptive and just good energy. Even a couple of years ago when we had the folks from this Bukinese tribal network who wanted to learn how to do, you know, develop a peer mediation program and came together and designed a 2-day training for them. Shelly and Tino were very involved in that. And so I think for folks listening, just letting you know, if you are interested in developing a peer mediation program, just reach out. I'll leave my contact information in the summary of this, or it's you can do peacebuildingllc@gmail.com. Uh, and but yeah, it's just been really nourishing to see how this and I do have great faith that when you get to the point where you want to retire, we will have someone that can be there to take over. Got to focus on that, you know, thinking about like sustainability, thinking about, you know, yeah, I really like what you all just said about, you know, maybe we should be planning something in the fall. And it doesn't have to be really as big as the thing we do in March, but uh, just something as a touch base for folks to continue to build that relationship. Uh, and then there's the alumni aspect of it as well. You know, I think there's a lot that can be done, and so I'm excited about these new opportunities. Especially we have 40th. Some folks are talking about like, oh, the 40th is coming up. You know, what are we going to plan for that? Or I know there was Shelly really wanted us to go camping. Was it in
I
Kauai?
want us to go camping on Kauai, and I feel like I met the Kauai person from yeah, that came. She was really nice. What was her name again? I can't remember. Maya, do you guys remember the Kauai person's name from
Bianca? Or no?
Bianca? I don't know who. Yeah, maybe it was Bianca. She was just really cool, and I just feel like going to Kauai is where we should go for our 40th.
I agree.
Well, that was Kate Conway on Kauai, and
Oh, Kate.
she was like, I had no idea that this was a thing. Thank you for inviting me. And then Jose said, oh, you should tap into what they have on Kauai. She said, I had no idea that was a thing. You know,
Yeah.
like I think our next step is being really intentional about what are the things out there that we need to know and how can we connect them and you know, work smarter, not harder, although this is the wrong crowd to say that to. Um, but
Yeah,
you have this already in place, right? Like even the crew coming from the Big Island, they
yeah, that's the Big Island crew,
have
Bianca.
internships that the students are getting paid for. And now it's
Amazing.
district level, you know, so there are pockets of this. We just need to, like Betty said earlier, make those bridges for us, for our own sanity.
Yes. And I think part of it is that's why we're doing this debrief as a recording as part of the podcast, so that it lives on, you know, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, or on the radio, whoever is maybe listening, you know, there's an opportunity there. So for those listening in, if you are an educator or you know of educators, or you're like, this would be a really great program at my kid's school, you want to bring it to the educators there, please, please do share widely. I think that's part of, we keep talking about community, and one of the things I take away is like, it's about the relationships. Everyone here I have been able to nurture some kind of relationship with over the years. And so I'm very thankful for your ongoing presence and support and collaboration. And yeah, I mean, whatever may happen, Shelly's like, I'm gonna be on sabbatical. I'm coming back and we're gonna figure this out, you know. Uh, and HTA, you have the team of, I know you're in separate, groups, but Shiloh and I, you're the team there, and Tino has the team with Kiana. Betty, and Shelly, we need to get you a team, a buddy, a buddy that you can.
Well, Betty and I are buddies.
I know, but you're in separate schools.
I know.
I'm just like,
It'll happen.
Yeah, we've been bringing students together for years.
I love it. I love it.
Just a little past thing though. Betty and I also worked at different times at Compadres, a restaurant in Ward Center back in the day. So we have multiple connections.
Oh,
Some Mexican food as waitresses.
Is that where we're having our reunion lunch?
I don't know if it's still
They don't
around.
exist anymore. Yeah, they don't exist, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we should have Mexican, maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
So
just to the unconscious of time. So how, if you could leave listeners with one takeaway or call to action, what would it be? It could be like, who specifically do you hope hears this message? One small step that can be taken immediately for folks that are listening.
I think for me, it's just trust in the process, trust in the teenagers, the students. There's just so much in them that you might not expect, and they'll surprise you, and usually it's a positive. So just trust.
I think for me, just understanding that conflict is a total normal thing about life, and that there are opportunities and resources out there to help you navigate those conflict in a much more positive, safe way. And I think mediation is truly, truly, truly a great opportunity to do so. And like Shelly said, just trusting the process, and knowing that it's okay to ask for help. We are going to need help one point in time in life, so it's okay to do that.
My takeaway or call to action is co-create, co-design with students. They are so excited and they want to take on this responsibility, and they will surprise you in so many ways. And also cultivate your own community. Like, we would not be doing this. I would not have done this by myself, right? Like, we are a team, and we all, even in our busy schedules, figured out how to make this work. And even if it was like we had to assign each other some asynchronous work because the virtual meeting time that we set didn't happen, like, we can cultivate that community and that team that is going to, I love the word Tino used a few times, empower, right? We want to not be in power, we want to empower the students.
I would say to just reach out. So you said, build your own team, but reach out to one of us. We'd love to have some new, fresh faces come on board. That would be awesome. We were so excited to get the other islands coming, and reach out.
Message for the young and the not so young is be mindful of your own voice, trust it. Trust your ambition, believe in your potential, and align yourself with others that are going to spark that cultivation of your gifts and support your gifts in a complementary way. And know that you're not alone. And elevate.
Every voice.
That
was our thing at the end of the conference. That was there we go.
Thank you. I think just to share I think I always talk about, the power of active listening. Just that's where I think a lot of it begins, actually practicing active listening, because it's like a trickle effect. It leads to eventually empathy and compassion, and eventually building a relationship with other folks. And uh, going back to, I hadn't heard the word conflict for a while until Tina brought it up. Uh, it's harder to walk away from a conflict if there is a relationship that's been nurtured for a while. You want to try to figure it out, uh, work through it in some capacity if it's possible too. So I just want to say thank you so much as we close today's episode. We're reminded that peace building is collective practice, one that calls us to listen deeply, act with intention, create spaces where every voice is valued, and you all are doing a beautiful job of doing that. The 39th Annual Peer Mediation Conference shows us what's possible when we invest in our youth and trust them to lead with empathy, courage, and insight. Thank you to our wonderful guests for sharing your experiences and for the work you continue to do in our schools and communities. And to our listeners, thank you for being part of this journey with us. As we look ahead at the 40th and beyond, let's continue to build, connect, and most importantly, elevate every voice. Until next time. Thank you, everyone. So appreciate you all.
And thank you, Jose,
Yeah, thank
for
you.
having this and putting this together.
Yeah.
Been great, and everyone as well. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, it's supposed to be like that, right? Is this the new one?
Not with it. No, I'm like, no, I like the old. I'm like, no.
You told me that I was supposed to do that. No.
Yeah, the kids talking about. I'm like, no, sorry guys, I'm a 90s girl. I'm like, no, we're doing this. I like this.
Oh, there you go.
Love it.